Let me fix you a cup of coffee. I brought all my things to tell you my Kyoto recommendations. I kept this book during my trip. I basically wrote and pasted things everywhere I went and wrote some things like the prices and stuff, just so I'd remember, because I knew I wanted to go back eventually, either with like my boyfriend, with my friends, or by myself. So the trip I took by myself, completely by myself. And I was thinking, what is the best way to talk about this? And at first I thought, first all the food, and then all the temples, and blah blah blah. But now I'm thinking, I think the most convenient way is actually by section of like the city. This is a map of Kyoto. I will be talking about some places I liked in different parts of the city. Disclaimer, I've only been in this kind of trip once in Kyoto, and you should definitely complement this with other videos or travel guidebooks, and these are just my opinions. I also want to share some tips and some things I learned that were very useful during my stay. Tip number 1, get a Passmo or Suica card. These are just cards that you can get at any subway station, and you can top them off and use them in buses and across different cities, and even in some convenience stores. Kyoto buses are definitely the most convenient way to travel inside Kyoto, and having to have the exact change every time you get into a bus is super stressful, and this is definitely the easiest way, and it will serve you for the whole trip. Tip 2, focus on one area. Kyoto is not a small city, so if you have things you want to see in different parts of the city, it can take up to an hour to go from one to another. So I really recommend, if you have the time, like more than a day, to exhaust the places around the neighborhood you want to visit, because there's probably a lot of stuff you want to see, and planning around it and spending more time in one neighborhood is more rewarding, because you can walk around and see different things and not spend half of your trip on a bus. And speaking of different parts of the city, I will start by telling you which places I really loved in the north part of the city, which is the area where I was staying. One of the most popular places to visit there is the Golden Pavilion, which is a classic. It looks very peaceful here, but it's really, really popular. It has a lot of people. Then we have Funaokayama Park. This is 10 minutes away from the Golden Pavilion, and it's completely free. It doesn't have an entrance fee, and it has a park with a beautiful view of the city. It's dog-friendly, so I ran into a few Shiba Inus, and it has a temple at the top, which is really nice. And this brings me to the reason why I wanted to make this video in the first place. Some of the places I found were completely by chance, because I was walking around or got a few recommendations from people I know that live there. And honestly, this was my dream trip, because I didn't feel like I was going from one touristy place to another, or I was in any rush, and I felt like I could go back to any place I really liked, and even took some time. For example, this park, I went in the afternoon, and it was super peaceful. I went almost at dusk, when usually other temples are closed, and I could sit down and draw, and really, that's my ideal thing. So if that's the kind of trip you're looking for, maybe this recommendation list will be useful for you, because some of these places I didn't find in any travel guide. I'm hoping maybe I can recommend you something that you will really like if you travel to Kyoto. After that, north of the park, I recommend a few of the shrines and temples over there. You will know you're on the right track, because you will see this torii gate in the middle of the street. Over there I also saw quite a few dogs and kids that were just out of school, and it was a really peaceful place, completely free, and with a lot to see. I really liked it. Honestly, what I enjoy the most about Kyoto is how peaceful some of the neighborhoods are. Every day, I would take the time to walk around. This takes me to my two final destinations, which are two cafes, my favorite ones I visited in my whole Kyoto trip. The first one is called Machico Coffee, and I had fluffy pancakes there, and they had really good music and magazines you could browse. Another thing I love about Japan is that people sit alone and just do their thing and go to cafes alone all the time. I find that really comforting because that's what I like to do myself. And my absolute favorite coffee restaurant place was Kodousyouten, which is this place that looks right out of a storybook. It's really strange, and it also has good music, and it's run by this one girl that cooks everything, and she's super nice. So I just told her, like, give me whatever you recommend. She has a daily menu at a really good price. The rice, the soup that comes with the menu, everything is delicious. I miss it so much. I went there all the time. Like every night that I didn't know where to go, I would go there. And the thing is, it opens really late. Both of these cafes do. So when you're like super tired and a lot of places have closed, these two stay open until midnight, which I find amazing and I love it. Now we go a little bit south and to the east to this area. Well, apparently I have a lot to say, but I don't want this video to be super long because I still want to do a few vlogs, so I will try to be a little quicker. So the first place is the Heian Shrine, which unfortunately was under construction when I went. Then a little north from there, like a block away, is the Okazaki Shrine. This doesn't have an entrance fee. And it's a bunny rabbit themed shrine. It's very cute and it's adorable. And right behind it, again, another place that I didn't find in any travel guide or anything. I found it completely by chance and I love it. It's a cluster of temples, shrines, a Buddhist temple, a cemetery. It's very peaceful, very pretty. I only went there once and I now regret it. I really, really loved that place. And finally, this tiny cafe where they do a really good menu. In roughly that same area, you can find the Museum of Modern Art Kyoto, and it had a very good temporary exhibition. But I would say it's a small museum, but with a really good collection. So if you've got a rainy day or have a little extra time, I would recommend it. The photography collection was astounding. Now we're going to the east side. There's a lot to do there, so you can go for quite a few days and not run out of stuff to do. Another tip I would give is to bike. It's a convenient city to bike, and many hotels and Airbnbs will offer rental bike. But my favorite things were the Philosophers Walk, which I have a vlog about just that. So you can go watch that if you want to know more detail. And this brings me to my next set of tips, which are like avoid popular times. For my walk, it was almost completely empty. Had I gone there in the morning, it would have been quite full. I actually avoided all the times I knew people were gonna go there, but also like people are not gonna probably be there at lunch or when they're about to close. I would really plan around that. Another thing I didn't catch on video but I really loved was on the Philosophers Walk. To your right you will see a paper store. It sells a lot of different kinds of things made out of paper, like for example these boxes, which are beautiful and they're great things to give as gifts. There's a lot of free stuff and I would recommend to look for it because, for example, the walk and a bunch of the temples I'm showing, they don't have an entrance fee, and I could spend all my money in eating in good places. So this is a place, one of the best places I went to eat sushi at, and it's called Yutaka Sushi. It was very affordable, delicious, and you could see how they prepare it. On the south end of the Philosophers Walk, you can find Yasaka Shrine, which I really recommend, and it's right next to Gion, and Nanzenji, which is kind of in a park forest, very peaceful site, also free entrance, and It has very different architecture from all the other places I visited, so I really enjoyed going there. I'm gonna just throw a couple of random tips here because I think they're important and I don't have any visual aids for them. First, I would recommend going to big supermarkets to buy your food instead of the small convenience stores. They're very convenient and everywhere, but the big supermarkets usually have better prices and have prepared food that you can mix with your lunch. And I usually had either breakfast or lunch at home. The other random tip would be to get a SIM card. You can get a pocket Wi-Fi or different things, but I just bought a SIM card from Big Camera and it served me the whole trip. It was super convenient. I used it for Google Maps or whenever I had to find something or message my Airbnb host. For the price, I thought it was really worth it. And my final tip would be to get a stamp book. They look like this. And I wish I knew about them from the beginning of my trip, but I didn't. And you can buy them at most temples. They're actually the purpose is there to gather stamps in a Buddha pilgrimage, but you can buy them as a tourist. And they're these beautiful notebooks bound in fabric. And in almost every temple, you can see right at the entrance in the stamp shop, you can pay so they can stamp your book and write the name of the temple in calligraphy. It's the most beautiful memento I got from my trip. I wish I had all the temples I visited in this book. I want to fill it up if I ever go back. I got mine in Kinkaku-ji Temple, which is at the north end of the Philosophers Walk. I recommend it. It has a very nice view of the city. That's the point where I started my walk through the Philosophers Path. At the center of the city, another free temple, Shimogamo JInja, and very close by the Kawai Shrine. And I was very lucky to run into their flea market or craft market, I don't know what they call it. Here is the pamphlet they gave me, but I would certainly recommend, because there are pages that announce them, to look for any flea markets or craft markets, because it was one of the greatest experiences. People were playing music, selling handmade stuff. I bought a bunch of things which I really loved and I didn't find anywhere else. I would also recommend looking for small independent stores. Kyoto has a lot of small businesses with very unique finds. Like, take your time and look for the independent stores. I love them so much. Also in the city center you can find the manga museum, and I would only recommend this if you really enjoy manga. I found it really interesting that they show the mangas from every decade, so you can really see how the trends change, and I don't know, I found it very, very interesting, but I wouldn't think anyone who doesn't already like manga would get into it. And it's very nice because it has benches, so you can just take a book out and read for as long as you like. Most of them are in Japanese, but there's also a few English, quite a lot of other languages available. There are many other places near Gion and the center of the city that I'm hesitant to even add, because I think everyone that is planning to go to Kyoto will visit either way. But I just want to mention my favorites just in case. First is the Kiyomizu-dera temple, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's the only one, or at least the only one I saw, that it's a Shinto temple and a Buddhist temple in the same construction. And unfortunately, it was also under restoration. I think before I said construction, but it was restoration. But it was really beautiful, and I walked out of the Toji Temple, and outside that place, there's a really good street full of traditional crafts and Kyoto souvenirs, like all of your gifts you can buy there if you need to. Unfortunately, for some of these places, I don't have any footage. I don't have anything recorded. For some of them, I have pictures, but some of them I don't even have anything. So everything will be in the description box, even if I don't have a visual aid. But I just want to mention in Shijo Street is more of a mall type street full of the regular international stores and also traditional stores. And there is a newer building called the Bal building, and on the two bottom levels of the building you can find a very good library called Maruzen. I recommend that. I also recommend a coffee place called Ogawa Coffee. And I don't have any footage of the Nishiki Market, but it's a super traditional thing and a good place to eat. I also recommend that. A friend of my dad lives there, and he took me to a restaurant that is a little more expensive, but I would say it's worth it. It has a traditional Japanese garden that changes with the season, and I caught a glimpse of some geishas performing for a group of like office workers, and it was actually breathtaking. The food was delicious. There are 2 restaurants. Just make sure you go to the one next to the river, which is the one that has the garden. And finally, the Fortune Garden. It's also a little more expensive restaurant, but the food is delicious. The drinks are very, very good. The bartender is like amazing, and they do quite a lot of photo shoots for brides outside because they have white koi fish, which apparently photograph really well. Gion is a very good place to walk around. You can cover all of it and don't get bored. The places I would say you shouldn't miss are the Yasaka Shrine. Gion is a very good place that you can walk at night. For example, all the temples that I mentioned that were on the east side, I wouldn't recommend going there after like maybe 6 because everything is closed. All the stores, and it gets dark pretty soon. But Gion has more of a nightlife, so if you go at the end of the afternoon, and then you can see all the lights turning up, I would say that you shouldn't miss Hanamikoji Street, which has the famous geisha house at the beginning of the street. It has a very nice temple at the end. I don't remember the name. And also Pontocho, which is an alley that has been preserved, and it looks like it's hundreds of years old. Super nice. And the final area I want to mention is the south of the city. Some of it is outside the city even. First of all, I would say that you should probably go to Nara Park and all the temples, which is where the famous deer are. I don't have any footage of that, but it's pretty self-explanatory. Another place that is probably on everybody's list is Fushimi Inari, which is the temple with hundreds of 30 gates. It's a very colorful temple. The statues are very nice, and they usually have a small market outside with traditional food, takoyaki, and different things. It was very nice, pleasant. Right outside, on my way to the station, I stopped at a coffee place called Vermillion Café. The coffee was really good, the owners were really nice and helpful, and they had few Fushimi Inari themed manga and books. And I would also recommend Uji. I was taken there also by my dad's friend, and the place is famous because of its green tea. So make sure you try the tea. They have a lot of different things like green tea, ice cream, green tea, soba, a lot of different things. But just the tea in general, make sure you buy some. And I went to several temples there. I went to one, which was my favorite, called Mimurodoji, and I had the amazing luck to be there during the Ajisai season, which is the hydrangea season, but it also has a special place to see the maples in the autumn, the sakura tree, the cherry blossom trees in the spring, and the lotus flowers at the end of summer. So no matter what time of the year you go, there's something special to see there. I was really amazed by that place. I definitely recommend it. And since it's a little far off the city, I don't think it gets recommended that much. Then I went to one that it's close, but a little further in the mountain. I was lucky to go there by car, and it's called Kosho Horinji. That place was really nice, really calm. I wish I could stay there, like to read or something, because it was really calm. And finally, another place that's very famous and people usually go there, it's the Byodo-in. It has a giant Buddha, and it's the temple that you can see in the 10 yen coin. So a lot of people go and take the picture of that. But it actually has a very nice museum. I also was taken to a restaurant next to the river. The food was incredible, and what was really nice is that you could see the river the whole time. It was very, very traditional. It was like a small town vibe, and it wasn't very expensive at all. That's it. Thank you if you made it this far into the video. I hope this was useful, and some of the things that I didn't include because I couldn't go because of the storms, but I think you could also really like, are Arashiyama, which is in the mountain and has a bamboo forest, and also the temple Sanju Sangendo, which has 1,000 statues made of wood, and it's very impressive. If you made it this far, I'm going to leave you with this really cool chick, and then a video of a really sweaty version of me. It was boiling hot, and I was eating this shaved ice. A lot of people asked me about that on Instagram, so here it goes. And see you soon. Bye!